Welcome, everybody. Jose J. Garcia with Garcia Home University here. So, Sunday coaching series and another one. Tonight's call is going to be about qualifying tenants and residents, meaning end buyers, maybe. Just depends on what kind of exit strategy you're doing. This could also even qualify investors as well. Didn't even think of that because some parks will. They will ask you to do a background just like if you were going to live there. And you got to think of that from their point of view. Of course, if they don't know you, you've been doing this, that kind of thing, but you're new to them, as with anybody, they want to know who they're dealing with. So that can go for this as well. But we got a lot of tips for you. But like I mentioned, we got a special guest speaking on here tonight. We try to bring people on here as much as we can, just make it a little more conversational in a sense. And everybody has something to offer. That's one thing. It doesn't matter where you're from, where you come from. If you're into this business, we can all learn from each other. It's all about giving back. These calls are nothing to get into. They're plenty free. So good crowd on here. I'm expecting a lot more people though. So that being said, let's go ahead and jump on here. So Byron, you on with us? There you are, Byron. I think you're muted, maybe.
What's going on?
You
Can
better
you hear
get
me?
signal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
can you hear me?
going a little bit. Let's see. Let's put some funds up together, guys, and let's get the Byron's
let's
internet.
see. There, wow. All right, can y'all hear me?
A little bit better, yeah.
Hello.
I know he had to
All
join
right,
it from his
cool.
phone
What's
device.
going on, man?
So, yeah, you coming and going a little bit. Do you need a minute to try to connect to maybe Wi-Fi, or are you good?
Wi-Fi. Here, let me try this. What about now?
A little bit more, yes.
Can you guys hear me?
A little bit better, yeah. You good?
Okay, cool. I had to hop off to the Wi-Fi. What's going on, everybody?
Okay, so great to have you on here. It's been a little while since I talked to you. I know you're busy traveling, doing a whole lot of things without telling all your personal information. I'll share a little bit of that, but a little bit about you. So for those of you wondering, and you should know who Byron is if you're in the mobile home investing field, Byron is a mobile home and mobile home park investor. He is the founder of Mobile Home Elite Investor Education. Much like what I do, he's doing the same thing and killing it out there. So entrepreneur all around. So everybody meet Byron. If you have not heard of him, he's all over the place as well. YouTube, everything, always giving tips. I was watching your previous videos. Good stuff, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So glad you could join us because I thought the topic tonight, you could bring a lot of insight, a lot of the things we see, similar to, of course, and it doesn't matter what state you are in. This one here can go for anything, real estate included, but qualifying tenants and buyers. That's huge.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, so I mean, to me, especially if you're going to do any, seller finance and rent to own programs, you definitely want to qualify your tenants. It is so important because I think a lot of times, with us being an affordable housing sector, sometimes we don't, we may be looking for the buck, and we're not necessarily qualifying the right people, and they can come in there and not really, not really take care of your property. And so, the biggest thing for us is that when you qualify, we doing credit, we're doing credit checks, we're doing background checks. We want to find out, get some history, right? We're calling previous landlords. We want to get as much data as possible because at the end of the day, we understand that, this is long term, right? We're not looking just for something short, especially if somebody's going to be making payments. And so, qualifying those tenants, especially getting somebody in the mobile home community, you want to get somebody that's, that brings value to the community.
Absolutely. I call this a slow and effective process, one that you cannot rush. But you are right about that. Many people, especially investors, they get a little impatient. They immediately start to rush that, that they got X amount of money. And even if they do have the down payment, let's say your exit strategy is to sell it, but you'll finance it for them and you're requesting a hefty 8K down payment. They may have that, but they have no means of paying you the remaining balance. And you do see that. And when it comes to the background, there's a lot of things you check into, and we're going to break some of those things here. We got Byron for 30 minutes, y'all, by the way. He is giving his time. I mean, this is, like I said, no paying here. So he is giving us his time here. So make sure you got your questions ready on that as well. But let's jump right in. So I would say that when it comes to qualifying tenants and end buyers, residents, it's one of the biggest mistakes that investors make early on. They can cost them a lot of headaches, a lot of time, a lot of money later on, because a lot of these people may start out paying you okay, but as time goes by, 3 4 years that you have set an agreement, by the time you get about halfway through the year, people start forgetting about that down payment, skin in the game, as we call. Suddenly that 3,000 4,000 they gave you, well, whatever kind of thing, and they just start, you become more and more of a landlord than you are as a seller. And it's all because, again, how you screened them. What kind of system did you use? What did you pay attention to? Or did they simply flash that down payment and you were a-okay, good to go? So, Byron, you do a lot of RTOs, or is it mostly flips right now?
So currently, I would say for the most part, flips. The reason why, for the park that I have a great relationship, they give me homes for free. Pretty much everything under 2 grand. So most of those, I just flip them right over to friends and family.
Okay, so you wholesaling in a sense, I guess, double wholesale or whatnot. Got more people coming on. So
Yeah,
okay, so you're not really fixing them,
yeah.
rehabbing them, and putting them, at higher markets. So that would make sense. Yeah, and we do a lot of those down here.
Mhm,
Are you involved with
mhm.
a lot of the screening when it comes to something like that, or is that more you left off for the park management?
Yeah, so currently, I would say not me personally. Right now, we don't. We have a team, and so with the one person, what she does is she screens everyone. She runs. So again, I give everybody a gym. We were using Cozy.co that got ended up
Mhm.
bought out by Apartments.com. But from there, we'll definitely just utilize that tool, and then from there, that's how we screen all of our tenants.
That's funny you say that. I just finally went from cozy to apartments. I had so many properties. I'm not bragging at
Nice.
all, but I had so many. It took them a while to get it over. Had me concerned. Though. I kept thinking, all right, what if they mess up my contracts? You know what I mean?
Right.
But no,
Yeah.
everything looks up to par. So I'm happy, and it seems like it's
Mhm.
easier to navigate anyway. So not that cozy was hard,
Yeah.
but okay, well, cool. Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're just doing smaller numbers like that, it would make sense.
Mhm.
I do get involved a lot of times. It just depends on the relationship with the park. Because of
Mhm.
course, a lot of parks require investors to do backgrounds. So a lot of parks, you can't get around that. And a lot of investors ask, well,
Mhm.
how can you? And bottom line is, if that's what they require, you're going to do a background just like everybody else, but you only have to do
Yep.
one. That's the thing. So once you do
Mhm.
one, and you can keep investing in the park. Um,
Yep.
think of for everybody listening here is think of everybody that's going to be your tenant, your end buyer, your whatever resident it is that you're doing, unless you're just flipping it, then you really have no rights to say anything. But think about almost like an interview. You are interviewing these
Mhm.
people because who are you interviewing, who you doing the background, this is the person that's going to be living in your home. And if you're doing an RTO like we do for 4 or 5 years, that's 4 or 5 years you're going to be talking to these people. So if you see a lot of red flags from early on, I would say that's not something you want to take too lightly and or ignore. You want to pay attention to these things here. Now, we do provide affordability living, so that's a huge thing. Obviously, we try to work with people, but all in all, once we've seen, when we start running these backgrounds, if they don't have the best of track coming on, you're probably going to be part of that track sooner or later. Byron, your thoughts on that?
No, I mean, you're absolutely correct. When you're seeing, if you're looking at credit reports and, you're seeing, delinquents, if you're seeing things where, payments not made on time, then you have to realize that this is possibly for a $500 to a $2,000 credit card. Imagine what it's going to be like, when it comes to the living situation. And so, that's very, very important. And one thing for myself, I always look to see if they have, they got a Walmart card, a Best Buy card, some type of card that has some balance on it. Now, to me, that's just another way of insurance, right? Just in case that they can't make those payments, now I know that they'll be leaning towards their credit card to make those payments, especially if you have the payments set up so that way they can make those payments.
That's a new one. Yeah, interesting. So get them utilized any way of paying you. Yeah, no, absolutely. So okay, they would for any other bill, I suppose. So
Mhm.
definitely, you want to make sure that you do a thorough screening, which consists of previous rental history. That's huge. You want to know where they live, the landlords, if they've been living even with family relatives, because you're going to want to get references. And you will need to call those references. Though, too many investors get references and never even call them. I mean, why even bother getting a reference number if you're not going to call? So you want to do that. Criminal, that's another one. Criminal history, we pay attention to that. We're not discriminating against anybody. Keep in mind that the mobile home park is going to do a background as well. They may take yours. It just depends on the relationship. But, if somebody has a lot of felonies, a pretty bad record, it doesn't matter whether you approve them or not. If the park says they can't come in here, there's nothing you can do with this end buyer or resident. So that stops at that point anyway. Credit, like Byron said here, I didn't think about a credit card to use for that. That is a security in the sense for him, and it would for anybody selling. But I do want to see what their credit is. And one thing that you see, like he was talking about delinquencies, if somebody has 10, 12 delinquencies and they're on collections, you will be the next one. That's just the way that it works. We've seen it all too often, too many times. 7 years investing into this. I mean, it's a pattern. So take about it that way. You want to help people out, but at one point, people have to help themselves out first. So definitely the references is huge. That's something that I've relied on quite a bit, calling different landlords. And I've been shocked at some of the landlords that they give me because as soon as I call, it's not such a pleasant reaction on the other way around. So, but hey, it gives me the information I need. So I think Byron knows what I'm talking about on that.
Yeah, definitely.
So park management, they have their own systems many times, and here lately it just seems like, wow, they just keep going up and up on backgrounds. We have a mobile home park here in not far from where I live. They charge $85 a person to do background. So
Wow.
it's like, wow, that's just the way they do it, and they will not take any other form of. We've tried to suggest, which I'm going to list a few links here for you here in a minute, but they won't. That's the way they do it. If it's a family, which most likely it is, 85 per person. So, a lot of times though, however, is you can get them to share that information with you. If they got to go through that system, everybody does. You can, again, the relationship between you and the park management, you can get them to give you a copy of that background. But a lot of times they will not because it's confidential. They can only share it with the resident. And then the resident really doesn't get it, doesn't give it to you. Now you have a circle of wonders. But one thing to remember is that, even if a park management does approve, for instance, a resident, who's to say that you will approve the same resident unless you know all the information or something that you need to know? Because think about it this way, a park may be trying to qualify him as a renter. Well, what if I'm not renting? What if I'm selling it? My qualifications may be a little bit differently. So at that point, do you find yourself trying to do two backgrounds? What do you say to that, Byron?
So yeah, so like what you said, when you get to the point where it's, you got to be real. I'm not saying not to say strategic, but when it comes to the point of, like you said, as far as those, do they have to do two backgrounds? For us, we're normally upfront with them, and just saying, this is a pre-qualification. So that way, we want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence on our company, and we explain to them, we're two separate entities. But I apologize, I didn't catch the tail end of that again. Can you ask that again?
Well, the two and I'm still letting people come in as well. So if I pause on here, got a pretty good crowd tonight. A lot of parks, and early on, not so much now, it's all about relationships. A lot of park management, they will do their own backgrounds because that's the way their system is set up, but they won't share it with you or I like investors. No, this is just confidential between me and the resident, and we can't share it. Well, then it kind of leaves you out in the air as thinking, okay, well, what's in there? What can I not see? Because I have to have it for my own files kind of thing. So I was asking, would you suggest having two backgrounds? And I would. I've actually done it and even gone to the extent of I'll pay for the one from my side because I can't expect a resident to say, okay, I'll pay for two backgrounds. That's just crazy. But of course, we use a different system. That's not 85 in this sense per applicant. But having a background for yourself, that's a must. And it's an investment that's well worth. I'd rather spend $30, $40 on a background and reject this individual for whatever reasons than be stuck with them and later trying to evict them. So one of those kind of things.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, and I was happy. Yeah, I was wanting to make sure I wanted to clarify when I was answering that. But yeah. Normally for us, if it is two applications, we just explain it to them. Like I said, in that case, I get it. That park's $85. That's pretty high. But for us, the more serious the buyer, they don't really care what the fees are. So they understand that, hey, I'm gonna have to pay $25 or $30 on this side, and then when I have to apply for the park, it's going to be 55, $60 on my end. So a lot of times, when they're serious, and that's what I realized too. When we start getting people complaining about fees on what they have to pay, then even for us, that's kind of like red flag to say, all right, we rather have somebody that's pretty much on board, that's just ready, and they're ready to jump through every hoop to make sure they get their dream home.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's good. If they're hurting for 20, 30, for background, that may be a red flag. They may not be able to afford the payment at the end of the month or the rent either way. So what would be some traditional disqualifies that, for residents? Some things that disqualify a resident.
Oh yeah. So I mean, it goes back to, it could be a very an eviction that just happened, possibly in the last 2 years or so. That can just, even, it depends on the park, but 3 to 5 years. Sometimes it's just a red flag. Definitely, felonies on their records.
Mhm.
One thing again, when you look, like I talked about earlier, the delinquencies. We're looking through credits. The debt to income ratio. That's very important, right? That's one thing that can also disqualify them. Let's see. I think for the most part, those are the ones that I know, parks that we've had relationships with, that they're pretty kind of strict on, but normally they're pretty lenient.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll kind of just piggyback off that. So definitely remember, we don't want to reject anybody. That's not what we do this for. We're doing it to, watch out for every side, if you will. But definitely, like you said, felonies, even if it was a 2, 3 year old felony and you want to work with them, keep in mind that, at the end of the day, the park is going to have their say so. So no matter how good of a person, you may even know them, they have the rules and they're not going to bend those for anybody. Also, be careful as to who you're willing to put your name out there for, because if they got a record of something and you're so hard trying to push them in there and they allow them solely because of you, what happens when that person gets evicted or does something, within that, first thing is, okay, well, you're the one who said, kind of thing. So don't burn your name on that. But definitely felonies would be huge. And of course, sex offenders, I know something like that. That's an immediate, any park that I work with, they're pretty strong about that. So you can imagine family oriented mobile home parks, they're not going to want that. Felonies, if they're recent. Evictions, definitely, if you have an eviction for 20 years ago, that's one thing. But if it's 2 weeks ago, you kind of know where that one's going to head anyway. uh, Poor credit, credit score in a sense, not so much as delinquencies and just overall, like you said, ratio to credit and what you're making. So all that would go hand in hand, kind of thing. uh so what do y'all think so far? Drop some comments on there. Start dropping y'all's questions on the chat bar. We got Byron here for another 10 minutes. Byron's actually traveling. Byron, you just got engaged. Congratulations. I've been keeping up with
Thank
you
you.
all. Yeah, good stuff. Good
Thank you.
stuff. Yeah, congratulations
Appreciate
to
it.
you and Cherise. They're awesome. So I was sitting there watching it. But um, some of the systems that we use to do the backgrounds. Okay, because you have, like I said, the backgrounds that the parks can do. They have their own systems, and I don't even know what they use. They have their own, application that you just submit, and they'll take care of it from there. But a couple systems that we've used, that worked out pretty good for us is one is rentprep.com. That's pretty easy to get an account on, especially if you're a landlord. You're going to be doing quite a bit of them. Rentprep.com. You can go on there and submit. You'll need all their information. You'll need a copy of their license, ID, whatever information it requires. Now that one there is about, I think, 45 to do. And then of course, police department. You can go to a police department anywhere and kind of get your own background, but you want to make sure you get the renters type background on that. What kind of systems do you use, Byron, for something like this?
Yeah, so primarily, like I said, it was cozy.co, but again, apartments.com. That was primarily the one that we use. It was pretty simple. It was user friendly. So yeah, that's what normally we use. And then for us, again, like, it goes hand in hand with the park. For the biggest thing is, we ask the park managers, what's you guys' requirements? Like, what are your absolute red flags? And so that way, once we get that, we just match the information and we know who to send in from there.
Yeah, regardless of which system you use, I mean, for everybody in here listening in, I mean, again, credit, criminal, credit history, get all that. I know Rent Prep has a cheaper one, but it doesn't give you the credit history. And trying to save $10, that's not going to really benefit you. And at the end of the day, the resident's the one who's supposed to be paying for this, not you. So I would say spend that investment, make sure you're qualifying, real true qualifying, screening your end buyers, your residents, before you give them access and keys over to your property. That one is huge there. I've seen enough of that. And I myself, early on, Well, they seem that was a thing. They seem okay.
Mhm.
Well, everybody seems
Yeah.
okay from the get-go, but that don't always work out.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions so far? Let me drop the chat here.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that. Normally, when you're getting new people, they're always going to be in their best behavior. They're going to show you right.
Oh
Like
yeah.
they come in there with Sunday suits. They're going to be the most polite. And like you said, it's just sometimes as a new investor, you can get one over from that because you're gonna hear sob stories. You're gonna hear people the worst of hey, this is happening to me. And so now when you really have to kind of take your emotions out of that business and make your best business decision for your business.
That's a good one there. And I'm going to actually add a question to you on that. So, yeah, um, I don't ever want to talk about anybody, and I'm not, but I have a park
Yeah.
owner in South Carolina. I hope he's not on. um, he has 13 mobile homes, and he is a very kind individual. But, one thing because I coach mobile home park owners as well, and I think I kept reminding him is this is a business. This is not a friendship. This is not a relationship. This is a business. We all have bills and we all have excuses. So, stop giving people chances. Bottom line is, out of all those people, two people paid him on time. Other people gave him some, then they would kind of catch up. They kind of just let it go. He forgive them. You can have a big heart, that's good and all. But, one thing about starting to do something like that is once you allow it one time, that resident or the end buyer, whoever it may be, is going to expect that. It's going to expect that from you. So it's one of those things where I've always say is avoid friendship. It's not an ugly thing. It's a business. That's all that it is. I'm just your financier, or I'm your landlord, whatever it may be. How long do you typically work with somebody when they do start defaulting or getting behind?
Yeah, so the biggest thing for us is communication. If you're communicating with us, right? If we know we've had tenants that, especially with the pandemic, that was some of our last rental home tenants we had in. But the biggest thing, they kept communication with us, right? They would still pay their rent. It'll be days late. Or sometimes, they pay on the 15th or when they get paid. And for us, long as we were communicating, but we've had issues in the past that, we didn't have communication, right? We're the ones calling. And then from there, I stick right to our lease agreement. It's everything in there, and then I'm right by the books. Yeah, but I always tell our tenant buyers at the beginning, hey, listen, long as you communicate with me and I can help, give me an opportunity to help you, then we can do something. As long as you got a solution. But if you're not, then again, I'm right by the contract, and I'm following my 10-day policy.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that's good. Yeah, and same thing. We ask them. They don't always do that. You still got to hound some people, but from time to time. But the way we do it is do on the first, much like a mobile home park. Do on the first,
Hmm.
late after the fifth, and eviction after the 15th. And it's funny how they'll wait. They'll stretch it out. They'll stretch it out. But when it comes to the 15th, everybody pays. So,
Yep.
I don't ever want to count on additional fees. But, at the end of the day, if you're late on your rent or your payment, you're just paying fees anyway. That's not benefiting you, but that's just the way people do. So, yeah, that's interesting on that. So, um, the RTOs that you do, this was a question I was thinking. You set up your RTOs where one lump sum is paid to you, or do your buyers pay the park and then they pay you separately?
Yeah. So ours was separate. So it was set up. They were in a lease agreement with us. They're in a lease agreement with the park. And so the reason why we always explain to them, hey, listen, you have two responsibilities. And so for one, if you don't pay the park is going to come in and start to get the eviction roll. If you don't pay us, we're going to do the same thing. So normal time, well, we put it on the tenant buyer because they understand just the responsibility that they have, and they don't want to default on either one of them. So that's what we normally do.
Okay. You've never had any issues with that?
Out of my, let's see, 3.5 years doing this, we had to do one eviction. And the crazy thing about it, I had actually gave the family 30 days to leave the premises, but the park went ahead and continued with the eviction.
Oh, okay. Took care of it for you.
Yeah, so that was the only issue, and that was the most valuable lesson we talked about at the beginning. Screening, right? That was one of the ones that the family they actually, for the first red flag was they only gave me, I asked for 3,000 down and they gave me 2,000. And again, I just had a heart and things like that. And it was a lot of sob stories. This was actually my second rental home, and we learned from there how important the screening process was.
Absolutely. Byron, we're running down on time here. I know you are traveling. We're not going to keep you. I got one more question for you. If nobody else has a question, I'm trying to keep up with the chats here and no questions. Guys, Byron here knows his stuff, his craft. I mean, you got questions, you got them on here now. So I would just go ahead and ask. But Byron, you've been doing this for 3.5 years, and I mean, you've done phenomenal, to say the least.
Thank you.
Um, can anyone get into mobile home investing from your
Oh
point?
yeah. Yes, I think it's anyway. I tell people now, from what I see, I feel like wholesaling mobile homes is the gateway drug into real estate. Like if you want to get into real estate, and this is something, a lot of times you get scared by the big numbers that are in single family homes, and you all the different, I guess not to say the rules that come with it, but all of the strategies that come along with mobile home investment, especially again starting out wholesaling or even buying and flipping a mobile home. I think it gives you the confidence, right? You get to buy an asset for a fraction of what a single family home costs. You get a chance to, be hands on. And I love it because it's like you become what I tell people, when you start out, definitely if you don't necessarily have a strategy and the systems in place, you're able to kind of start off being a jack of all trades, right? You're able to purchase, you're able to go see, what the renovation looks like. If you do work yourself, you're marketing the home yourself, right? So you're acting almost as a realtor. So you got so many hats on, but it's so satisfying. After that first deal, it gives you the confidence to literally. I think any investment, after you do a mobile home deal, you can do whatever investment that is out there, because this game is not easy, and it's one that definitely takes good strategy, market research. But the first time you give the keys to a family, I think that it's going to change your whole mindset on what this industry does, and that's when you will be for the push for affordable housing.
Absolutely. No, and you struck on a couple things there real quick. You said it's harder in a sense. It has definitely been said that it is harder to be a landlord in mobile homes than any other type of housing. And it is. I do believe it's true because of the clientele, maybe. I don't want to say anything negative, but so if you can master landlord in mobile homes, you can be just fine. Multi-door, duplex, quads, apartments, you can be okay. So okay. And again, like you said, reach out to, you got myself that any of y'all can reach out to me at j@garciamhu.com. You can visit Byron. Byron, what's your website?
Yeah, so you guys can go to mobilehomeeliteinvestors.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook at Mobile Home Elite Investors, and then YouTube, MH Elite Investors. And that's pretty much where you can find all our information and value that we bring as well.
There you go. Those of you thinking about somebody doing the same thing as you as competition, I just proved that wrong. Me and Byron do the same thing.
Right.
It's called networking,
Right.
not competition. So, well, Byron, we're going to let you go. I don't see any other questions. I'm going to
Uh,
stick around for a couple more minutes, do some advertising here. But thank
uh,
you, man. We'll be in touch. I'll call you probably later this week.
all right, brother. Have a good one. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, we'll see you.
All right.
All right. That was good, I think. Nobody's commenting, saying anything. So I'm going to just go with that. Couple announcements that I did have to announce on here. Let me see. Yeah, there's no questions. And there's a lot of information in the chats box. So if you want to look into that, you can get a lot of emails and that sort of thing, including Byron. Byron knows his stuff. He's been doing it for a while, like he mentioned. Also educates a lot of people. I know he just purchased a mobile home park as well. So, I mean, he knows this craft. It's one more person that you can add under your belt that you can listen to and get some tips and nuggets. He blesses a lot of Instagram, especially. So, but yeah, good call. The next call, a couple people already sent me a couple emails. I think I kind of oversaid it in one of my videos, and that was how to pay contractors. So I think that caught a lot of attention on there. And I may have a contractor possibly for that next Sunday. I'm going to do my best, but I'll let y'all know on that. And if y'all want a different topic, y'all let me know. But as at this time, I think it's going to be, let me write that down. How to pay a contractor. We may actually get into slightly how to hire one as well. So that's a huge thing for a lot of you, how to pay a contractor. Tuesday, we have the Let's Do deals coming up. We got some new inventory in there. Still waiting on a couple other ones to come in and get a lot of information. So just basically looking, getting pictures, getting y'all an idea of a lot of these deals that are up and coming. So I'm starting something a little bit differently on Friday mornings now, where I'm going to pick one property that I can go ahead and send, because with me getting so many more contractors, that's one thing I figured was everywhere I have deals, I want to start interviewing contractors myself to have there as backup and backup. If I decide to keep those homes, I'm going to have to rehab them anyway. So I don't want to wait till the last minute to kind of wait and see who I can hire at the last minute. Nothing works great in a rush, so we're not trying to do that. But that being said, I'm kind of keeping them on the side, and just go ahead and go give me a quote on this property. Check out this one here, that one there. So on Friday mornings, we're going to start sending an email that's going to be a recap to the Let's Do Deals Again, and things, of course, updated what's already sold. But along with that, I'm going to go ahead and put so-and-so has already a quote from a contractor. That way, if it's a property that you may be interested in, know that there is a contractor nearby that can assist in that rehab per se. So that's something coming on there. That's Let's Do Deals. We did go live on YouTube tonight. I think it did good on here. That's my first time on that. Still didn't do Clubhouse, so we'll get to that eventually. I'm working. I got so many systems running at one time. So, of course, this Zoom here. Catch the replay of this tomorrow morning. We will blast it on YouTube as well. If you have not been to my website, we've changed a lot of things, including even the background. We went with the gold and white kind of thing, but more so the coachings that are there now. Those are about to start changing again. We're about to offer some new things and remove a couple options that are there. More so, too many students on one certain coaching at this time. We don't want to take too many on one side and start neglecting others, if you will. We never do that. So, but yeah, that is all I have for y'all tonight. Next Sunday, how to hire a contractor, how to pay them. We're going to cover both. I want to cover both of those, and handyman, of course. Hand in hand goes with that. So, well, everyone, thank you all for joining me. If you need me, visit me at garciamhu.com or email me, j@garciamhu.com. Till next time, thank you for watching.